last commander-in-chief of the Soviet Navy saw UFOs coming out of the ocean. Now, there are others that have witnessed UFOs coming out of the ocean, going into the ocean, and also floating or stopping above the surface of the ocean, or even draining water from the ocean or a river or a lake. Now, the video making the rounds of an interview with the Russian admiral who was the last commander-in-chief of the Soviet Navy from 1985 to 1991. The video making the rounds of him. The video appears to be a few years old, and its contents is revealed. The commander discussing encounters between UFOs and a Soviet submarine in 1945 and a U.S. Navy sub in 1947. And let's remember, in 1947, July 4th, 1947, was the Roswell crash in New Mexico. So those UFOs appear to be capable of traveling underwater as well as in the air. Even more interestingly, he claims the subs were attempting to explore underwater caves off the coast of Antarctica. Will the Pentagon report have anything about this? Will the current Russian military or anyone? Quote, a squadron of Soviet submarines in 1945 and then a Navy submarine in 1947, he said, were severely attacked by flying saucers while trying to gain access to underground caves in Antarctica, end quote. And that's what the video says, opening with that big announcement. And according to the site Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, it's an interview conducted by journalist Khaled Al-Rusht for RT Arabic with Vladimir Nikolaevich Chernavin, former officer of the Soviet Navy, its last commander-in-chief, the only commander-in-chief of the Commonwealth of Independent States Navy from 1991 to 92, and he commanded the November-class submarine K-21 in 1959, later commanded the submarine flotillas of the Northern Fleet, and was awarded the title of the Hero of the Soviet Union before retiring in 1992. Chernavin is currently chairman of Soviet Submarine Association. Does he sound like someone who would know about UFOs and USOs? He said, I remembered an interview I had with the commander of the Soviet Armed Naval Forces, Vladimir Chernavin. He also told us about flying objects that were diving underwater and at high speeds coming out of its depth. The video is in Russian with English subtitles. It appears to be a recent production by Khaled Al-Rusht, where he reminisces about that previous interview with Chernavin and was prompted by Al-Rusht first remembering quote from U.S. Naval Admiral Richard Byrd about flying saucers, in which he said, it's quite possible that these UFOs, whether man-made or alien origin, come from several underwater bases, including the possible underwater bases in Antarctica, off the coast of California and off the coast of Puerto Rico. When asked about this, Chernavin dropped his bombshell. Quote, there have been hundreds of such reports. I saw this phenomenon, including when I was captain of the submarine during our time in the Atlantic and the Caribbean. I clearly saw a flying object over one of our Soviet positions, appearing in various forms, but mainly in the form of a round hat. He goes on to say it was especially glowing. This light was changing, but the dish was moving at a tremendous speed. Then it would stay hovered in one place and disappear immediately to another, in another place, and then dive into the water and disappear from view. And after a while, it came out of the water, but in another way. We were watching like this phenomena. As I saw it, the extraordinary phenomena cannot be ignored, he said. Does this sound familiar? Chernavin's text comments hits even closer to home to the Pentagon report and the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP for short. Quote, a committee of this kind was formed, especially since it was formed. I knew that the Americans had such a committee as well, and the decision was taken to collect and analyze this information in the military field for the first time from my side, he said. So Chernavin claims Soviet sailors were the first to report seeing UFOs, the first to see them in mass numbers, the first to follow them and to have an operational directive to monitor them with the approval of the Minister of Defense. He claimed the system of monitoring recording UFO data must be signed by the Commander-in-Chief personally. He recounts an encounter by a nuclear submarine and an escort fleet in the Pacific with a disc-shaped object with a diameter about 70 meters. An encounter, Chernavin assured Al-Rushd, was documented, and he concludes with this warning. Quote, "It was a very serious problem. The decision had to be taken carefully and with balance, and this problem still exists today," end quote. And it does exist, and we're waiting for the wrong report. So, of course, in recent we had the FOIA FBI documents, over 1,500 documents, and only a few of them have been reviewed. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more detail out of that. But there have been sightings and encounters with ETs and UFOs, and reports of radiation burns, teleportation, and even unaccounted pregnancies. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.